my gosh, hi. As per usual, the ring light will be in my glasses this entire video, and I hope that you can survive because I have to. So, today's video I'm so excited for because it's my top 10 books of 2024. I currently have approximately 3 days left of the year. It is just slightly after midnight on December 29th. And the next book that I'll be reading is not going to be a 5-star. It's a short story collection. They never get 5 stars. So I feel confident in my top 10 list this year. I will say, most videos people will say, this list is in no particular order. These are just my favorites. Not true here. You will be getting my top 10 in order. I will also say I only had 9 5-star books this year. So in order to get a top 10 list, I had to drop down to my 4.75 rankings. And I will say that my number 10 slot, that 4.75, if I could make it like a 4.9, it would be, because that particular book, the only thing that stopped it from being a 5-star was that final chapter / epilogue situation that knocked it down. Let's get into my top 10 books of 2024. All right, that aforementioned book number 10 is Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. This book was so much fun. We follow our 2 main characters who are both involved in weddings. They're kind of exes, and now they have to kind of come together to help out with the planning of this wedding. We have the girl who's the wedding planner, the boy is like this florist, and chaos ensues, fun times ensue. It was just a fabulous little romance. The thing that bothered me towards the end, no spoilers, I swear, was just because one of our main characters did something, or more so said something, that just felt so out of character. I didn't believe that that would have actually happened. So it's a 4.75, not a 5, but highly recommend, absolutely loved it. Let's move on to number 9. Book number 9 is not necessarily a book that I would recommend to really anyone, but it was just perfect for me, and that is The Succubus Prize by Katee Robert. This is just a tiny little monster sapphic romance novella. I did attempt to read other books in the series this year, and I did not like them in the slightest. But this one, it just did something for my soul. It was real fun, very spicy, so if you're not cool with that, do not read any of Katee Roberts' books. It's a lot, but I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Don't read the rest of the series for sure, because they're terrible, but this one, 10 out of 10, no notes. Number 8 is also a romance, but it is a contemporary romance, and it's a little bit of an older one. We have Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is the first book in this sort of like Renaissance fair sort of series. This was a book of the month pick years ago, and it's just been sitting on my shelf ever since. Randomly picked it up this year, fell in love with it, bought the subsequent books because I'm sure I'll love them too. We just follow 2 main characters at a Renaissance fair, and they fall in love, and it's so cute. What else am I going to tell you? Literally nothing. So let's move on to number 7. Back on our fantasy romance-ish, we have number 7, which is Electric Idol by Katee Robert. This is the second book in the Dark Olympus series. We follow what is essentially a Cupid and Psyche retelling, except that's the Roman names. Is it Eros and Psyche in Greece? I don't remember. You know what I'm talking about. You know that story. And it was a fabulous time. I was not the biggest fan of Neon Gods. I think it got a 3-star, but this one, there was some banter in it that was just so good. Not heavy on the fantasy, but it was just enough to make it more than just your basic little romance. So this was a good time. Number 6 is officially a horror novel, but it's really more fantasy than horror. It's not scary in the slightest. It just has some like creepy, eerie feelings, but like it's truly a fantasy, and that is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I've never read a Rachel Harrison before, but this one was just so good. It was borderline cozy fantasy, but with a horror feeling. There wasn't anything crazy fantastical happening, but there was like a little bit of magic going on in the world. But it was mostly about the relationships between the characters and like the growth of our main character. And it was just warm and fuzzy without feeling like a teddy bear. It was like a stuffed tarantula kind of vibe. Does that make any sort of sense? Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is an oldie but a goodie, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Yeah, I didn't read The Cruel Prince until this year. I read the entire first trilogy, I guess you would call it. You have like the trilogy, and then you have like the spin-off series that's like the duology. I've read the trilogy, and I read the little like short story collection situation this year. The Cruel Prince was by far the best out of all of them. I was not convinced I would like it at the very beginning, but then by the end of it, I was eating that up. I'm not even going to tell you what the Cruel Prince is about, because if you're on this video, this is not going to be the first place that you've ever heard of it. So let's just move on. Cruel Prince was fabulous. Onto a 2024 release for my number 4 spot, and that's Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is one of the first books that I read this year. Did not think I would love it so much, but I did. I cannot explain what made this book so good for me. I don't know if I just read it at a time where I just needed something that felt like this, because I'm going to be honest, beginning of 2024 was real rough for me. I was binging books like crazy because I just needed to distract myself from the world, and this was the perfect distraction at the time. And it's just, I still think about this all the time, particularly the scene where the main character is like laying in the closet, if you know the scene I'm talking about. I don't know why that one stands out in my brain, but that's the one I think about all of the time and just like warms my little heart. So Bride by Ali Hazelwood, my number 4. My number 3 is An Unexpected Peril by Deanna Raybourn. I started the Veronica Speedwell series this year, and one of the best decisions I've ever made. I started listening to these audiobooks because I was told audiobooks are the way to go. Fully agree. That narrator's voice just works so perfectly, the intonations that she does. I will say, I noticed that as I'm reading this series, this is book number 6, the even numbered ones are by far my favorite. This is the most recent one I read. It was, I believe, November when I read this. I thoroughly enjoyed this. All I can tell you that isn't spoilery is that the mystery we are following involves a sort of like mountain climber who our main characters believe has been murdered. So much fun. Obviously 5 stars. It's my number 3 book. Great time. Let's move on to number 2. My number 2 pick, I have to preface by saying I did not give myself the rule that authors could not be featured twice, nor could books within the same series be featured twice, which means that book number 4 from the Veronica Speedwell series is also here, and that would be A Dangerous Collaboration. This was my first 5-star of the series. It took until book 4 for me to really go all in and give a 5-star. But this was the book where the banter just really got to me, and I really fell in love with the romance. I don't remember what the mystery was in this particular book. I just remember that relationship getting to a point where I was just like, this is it. These are my babies. So, A Dangerous Collaboration gets my number 2 spot. And finally, in my number 1 spot is a contemporary romance, and that is Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I read Flawless earlier in the year. It was not my favorite. It wasn't great. I think I gave it a 2.75. So then I decided I'm just gonna go read the book in the series that seems to interest me the most, because I didn't think that the series was going to be for me. So I jumped into this one. The amount of times that this woman just like yelled at this man to grow up and be like, hey, you have trauma, you should probably go fix that. And he was just like, you know what? She's probably right. I'm gonna go do that. The bar is on the floor, my friends. The bar is on the floor. Now I'm thinking I need to go back and read all the others. I know everyone loves Heartless. However, the little boy that is the child of the man in that book was in the first book, and he irritated me so much. I don't think I can handle a book where I have to see him anymore. So I don't think I can read Heartless, because I've heard he's relatively prominent in it. So if I'm wrong, please tell me. Yeah, I skipped to book 5. But now I kind of want to go back and read 3 and 4, because I know number 2 is the favorite and I feel like I love it, but oh my God. All right, and that is my top 10 list of my favorite books of 2024. It was a terrible reading year. I only had 9 5-stars out of the 100 and something books I read. I think I'm up to 170. Yeah, it could have been way better. Hopefully 2025 goes way better, because I read some terrible books this year. I hope your reading year went amazing. I hope your next year goes amazing, both reading, personal, all of the different kinds of years you could be having. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.